All right, everybody. It looks like we're finally live. Welcome to the Fishing for Content podcast, where we talk fishing, content creating, and where those two things overlap. My name is Tej. I'm the host of this thing that we do almost every Monday night live right here on my YouTube channel, and then it'll be available on Spotify and other podcast platforms by Wednesday. Not yet Apple Podcasts, but I'm working on it. Okay, I'm working on it. Joining me tonight, very special guest. I've loved all my guests. So I'm super excited tonight to sit down and talk with my friend, Ant Sanders, senior designer at Ketchco, fun haver at Tilted Pine, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure.
Right.
So, Ant, dude, welcome to the podcast. Let's just jump right into it, man. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I actually had YouTube pulled up too, and it's like delayed. I'm freaking out. I'm gonna minimize that. Yeah, good, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. I'm excited about tonight. So one night I started the stream with my friend Garrett, and I was like, Garrett, I think you need to turn off your YouTube because I can hear it echoing, but it was me the whole time that was echoing. So that's one live stream fail that happens to me all the time.
Right.
But Ant, I'll just let you take the floor, man, and introduce yourself. Tell us, who you are, what you like to do for fun, stuff like that.
Sure, man. I'm Ant Sanders. I am mostly a graphic designer. It's my day job. I recently, within the past 6 months or so, went full time with Ketchco. Who, for those who are not familiar, basically the parent company of Mystery Tackle Box, Carl's Bait and Tackle, 10,000 Fish, Biospawn, and a handful of other content and brands and our content platforms and series and video series and you name it in the fishing industry, they've got their hands in it in some way. And before that, it was just freelancing for Ketchco and freelancing for a bunch of other fishing brands, and just kind of made my way in the fishing space not really as a fisherman until I started kind of gaining traction as a designer in the fishing industry. But ended up getting a few really rad sponsorships and stuff through just making connections with people and fishing and that sort of stuff. But if I'm not fishing, I'm either designing things with fish or centered around fishing. Kayaking is a big thing. I don't get to do it as much as I would like to, but yeah, I love to hang with the family. We're always moving a million miles an hour with school and kids stuff and all that, but my fiance Whitney and I, we're getting ready to do a little weekend getaway.
Cool.
Well, it's actually Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. We're gonna take a little fly fishing and mountain cabin kind of getaway. And but earlier it was funny. I was like, I messaged a friend of mine that owns the place, and I was like, "Is there Wi-Fi? Am I gonna be able to FaceTime the kids? Are we?" I was like, kind of jittery about it, and I was like, because I just peace of mind, whether I FaceTime them 10 times a day or not, but yeah, that's me.
So we actually, man, we got baby fever. My wife's in nursing school. She did a baby unit today and came home glowing. I was like, she's giving me the look, So, are you sponsored by Old Town as well? Is that?
Yeah. Which it's weird. I had started fishing and was on the way. This is no lie. I was on the way. This is actually a crazy story. It's funny you asked me that. Prior to Old Town, I woke up one morning. I was gonna go pick up kayaks for a previous sponsorship prior to Old Town. I won't mention the names, but I was driving. My fiance and I and the kids and everything. We lived in Greensboro, North Carolina, at the time, and we had to drive. I had to drive south, and I was on the way. I had a 2001 Ford F-150
Cool.
pickup truck, just like a white. I could pull up in like construction zones and park anywhere, like anywhere downtown. Like I lived in Charleston, South Carolina for a while, and I would pull over like anytime they were doing construction. I could pull that truck anywhere, and I would just never get a ticket because it was like this. It just looked like a construction truck.
Yeah.
I like go to pick up these kayaks, and I get in a wreck, like going down 85 South, like turn completely around. I kind of got tangled up with a Penske rental van, and those dudes flipped.
Oh
Like
gosh.
there was fire coming out of the underneath of the car. Like, I mean, what like the craziest thing in the world, like for me at the time. And before I was leaving, it was raining. Whitney, my fiance, she was like, "Don't go, just something doesn't feel right." And I was like, "No, I want these kayaks, man. This is like this is big for me. It's gonna be huge."
Yeah.
And needless to say, I got back home, and I let the people know. I was like, "I'm not coming." I I got in a wreck. I'm like kind of beat up and whatnot. And like a week later, uh, I got some reply on Instagram about a photo that I posted of kayak fishing with an old. It was a photo from like a year before,
Mm-hmm.
where I was in a West Marine kayak paddling in Charleston, right outside of Sullivan's Island, and a friend of mine, a friend of a friend that knew someone at Old Town, was like, Old Town should check this guy out or something kind of, that made me feel like, oh man, not me. Like I'm just a dude that's like, that'd be glorious. But
Yeah.
it started the conversation with Old Town, and one thing led to another, and it just happened, and here we are. Like I've never fished a tournament in my life, but just going out and like creating good, worthy, wholesome kayaking content.
Yeah.
I've kind of slacked off on it, to be honest. Don't fire me, Old Town. But yeah, it's a lot more to come. So.
Cool. I was wondering because I know you have them tagged in your bio on Instagram. Guys, by the way, two things I need to address real quick. Ant's information is linked down at the top of the description to his YouTube channel and I think Instagram. I think I did link the Instagram. So make sure you guys are following him. Stop what you're doing right now. Open another tab and go do that. If you need to leave and then come back, you can do that as well. The second thing I need to address is that I'm drinking Liquid Death, which is it's just canned water. It's just canned water. It's not beer. I promise. So Clearwater mentioned that he never fished a tourney. Digital Well says Old Town makes a solid kayak that's been proven time and time again. And that's what I was gonna say is knowing. If I knew then what I know now, I would have saved a little bit more money and got an Old Town for sure over the Vibe. No offense, if somehow Vibe is watching this, it is what it is with the Shearwater at this point. But I've been beating my head against the wall with
Vibe makes. I mean, I will say Vibe makes really, really solid stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and coming from like a graphic design background of 20 years, like I mean their branding is on point. I mean, everything they do is just top notch. I feel like but with that said, I mean, my sponsorship with Old Town is pretty insane, like just from what I get for the deliverables I give and that sort of stuff. Like it's just, I mean, the community, the people, the whatever, but the quality of boats that they have are just second to none. I will say that.
Yeah, I've got to clarify. Like my Shearwater was a pre-order. Like this is, and they had some shipping issues because of COVID. Like this is like COVID was just starting to kick off, and so they kind of rushed some things. They had to piece some parts together. So I'm having the problem that a lot of pre-order Shearwater guys are having, and that's fixing things that have been fixed since on the boat. So I mean, it's a great boat. Y'all see in my videos, I stand up and walk around the thing. Like it's incredibly stable. It tracks well. I'm happy with it. But if I made a move to a different yak in the future or some other vessel in the future, like We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So
Yeah.
you do some marketing for them as well. I've seen some pictures on Instagram that look really cool.
So yeah, so any of the design work that I post nowadays, for the most part, is pre Catchco days.
Okay.
And yeah, I've done. I mean, my freelance work, like in its prime, my freelance work was 12-hour days, working for Guggen, Old Town, Temple Fork rods, Loon Outdoors, like fly fishing tools and whatnot. Um, excuse me. All the like, I mean, as many big brands as I thought about like 5 years ago. Like, man, it'd be really, really, really great to work with company X, Y, and Z. And then being able to look back now and go, I'm working with Catchco and I've freelanced all these years for company X, Y, and Z and A, B, and C. And, just like that sort of stuff. So it's, um, yeah, I did like an apparel exploration, if you will, for Old
Okay.
Town, just as a, as a, just kind of additional thing outside of fishing for them and kayaking or kayak fishing for them, just to kind of push their merch a little bit, like everything we get from like a pro team quote unquote standpoint is solid, man. Like
Yeah.
everything we do from a branding perspective is great. Like all the content that we all have like a standard of what we should be putting out, like photo quality and um, that sort of stuff, because I mean, at the end of the day, you're fishing on these like crazy good, crazy cool kayaks and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. So, the marketing and things has to match. So the best I knew how to do it was like um, design. Like
Yeah.
how can Old Town, like a company with such heritage and like um, just history, appeal and kind of like move into this, like how can we take that and give it a fresh design but keep that like heritage and history.
Yeah.
So I did an exploration of I think at the time like 10 or 12 like designs that at the time were could be used on like, one could be just a sticker, one could be a hat, a sticker, and a shirt, and a sun shirt, and jogging pants, or whatever. So
Cool.
um, yeah, I mean they've always been awesome. They've been wonderful.
That's cool. That's cool. We kind of got on a tangent about Old Town, but that stuff's so interesting to me. I want to talk about Ketchco specifically later because now I get to work with Ketchco a little bit. Well, not work with, but like the sponsorship. So I work
Yeah,
alongside Ketchco, making content for them a little bit and hoping to grow that relationship as well. So I want to talk about Ketchco specifically in just a little while, but I'm excited about tonight's conversation because we had talked earlier. So I'm just gonna turn it over to you, man. If you just want to like kind of share your story, like how did Ant get from beautiful baby boy, kind of to where you are now? Like kind of tell us about your journey to get there.
sure. Yeah, I mean I was born and raised in um, the Carolinas, so Greensboro, North Carolina. My parents been together my entire life, and lucky. I mean that's a huge thing,
Mm-hmm.
especially nowadays. I mean, just life is weird for so many, and like I can always look back at that, like that foundation of like mama raised me right kind of
Yeah.
deal. Like I mean I know I was like I know and I veered off so many times to where like I would always question like, is my parents still gonna, are they gonna like dig what I'm doing? And um for the longest time I was doing so bad in school, and like I mean I hop around when I tell my story,
That's
man.
fine.
I'll go from one thing to the next and then back, and then just it just as it, I don't know, should probably write it someday. But
No
um
worries.
yeah, I don't know, man. Like middle school and whatnot, I was like the kid sketching in my notepad and like not paying attention to school, like the teaching stuff. I was just always like, I want to do like creative things. I don't want to do like the boring stuff. But then like I really got into history and how we got here and how we were as like a nation at one point. And there was a lot of like upbringing, like not by my parents, but just like in and around like the South, quote unquote, that
Yeah.
immediately like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, I would look around and just be like, that doesn't seem right. Like treating that person this way and this person this way, like that's weird. So noted for when I grow up, like I want to be different than
Yeah.
that. So yeah, I don't know, man. I was just like always focused on this, like being artistic and being one with quote unquote one with nature and like outside, always playing in the dirt and like just figuring out how I could get the dirtiest and I don't know. It's like we would like me and all my friends would ride bikes to the train tracks and like put pennies on the train tracks and kind of just figure out like once the trains would pass and like smush the pennies,
Yeah.
like it'd always leave like the somewhat of the design intact, but it would be this completely morphed shape of
Hmm.
copper, like this hard material, so it was like always this like nerdy fascination with how things could visually be manipulated and turned and twisted and whatnot. So pretty early on, man, I was like my dad, um well, I'll get to that in a minute. We like I would toy like tinker and stuff with all the computer stuff that I could be.
You saw that?
That's my fiance.
I know.
God, how did you sign in?
So
No,
if you're listening to this later, we actually do this live on YouTube and interact with chat while we're going. So if we go off on a tangent, it could have been a chat thing. Join us live on Monday nights at 8 p.m. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
no. So I mean, um, I would have friends over and be like, I had this one friend since I was like 5. We're still friends. This dude Brandon, he lived in the same neighborhood. Like, we would get together and play computer games or whatever. And I was always like, you know, how can I like manipulate things graphically and like do something with this? Like doing graphic design essentially before I knew what it was. And he was more of the like programming kind of like figure out the inner workings of the computer stuff. So fast forward a few years and I finally like hacked my parents' computer enough to like run Photoshop and whatnot. So there were times where my dad would walk by my bedroom, and I like he would say, "What are you clicking off the screen so quick for?" And I'm like, I'm not. I'm just I'm just that fast. Like
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm sure I mean, like gaming and
Yeah.
whatnot. Like I mean, it's just a fast motion all the time. Like so and he had told me later on, like, all these years that you were back there, like designing whatever it was, like, I thought you were building bombs or something. I'm like,
Most
no, man, I was like,
Yeah.
so it just kind of turned into this, it was graphic design. Like I was doing graphic design and it was that and music. Like that was all that I really wanted to do in my life was design and be outside and play music in some form or fashion. Um, yeah, I mean, I went through high school and eventually graduated and went to college for like a semester and then toured the country in a metal band. Uh,
What?
yeah. Um, we were actually signed to a sub label, a subsidiary label of Warner Brothers, and toured the country. It was called Bludgeon. It was just like a super heavy metal band. They're actually playing a reunion in a couple weeks at a festival in Alabama without me, but like
Oh man.
there was a lot of like members prior to me and after me, and like all in between, like just a reunion show here and there.
Did
And
they invite you?
well, no, like they went. So the first festival is called Furnace Fest. The first one was 20 years ago, 21 years ago, and the lineup that played that festival as Bludgeon is the same one that's playing the 20 years later
Okay.
Furnace Fest. So I mean, in that regard, it was like, well, yeah. And then me, my days of being on like a stage playing music or they've been over for a long time. But yeah, man, we like we would tour and um we would tour and come home and um you know not have any money whatsoever, so we just have to kind of scrounge around and figure out like, all right, well, what are we going to do for work for the next couple months, like until it's time to go on the road again. And that's where graphic design really came into play. Like I would mow yards and like do whatever I could to kind of just make money. But graphic design was like my thing. Like I built the first website for that I ever built was for a band that ended up somewhat morphing into the band Under Oath.
Very
Now,
familiar with Under Oath.
yeah. So
Probably I would almost say best show I ever saw, which was I saw him in Atlanta off the Define the Great Line tour. I think it was nuts. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
nice. Angel Fire website. No, it was probably I built that thing in like in Dreamweaver. Um, but yeah, designed it. It was for Spencer Chamberlain's previous band. This runs through, and they were friends of ours, like from some of them from here in North Carolina, and they moved to Florida, and like we're kind of gaining some traction. And then Under Oath was like, Spencer, come sing for us, and that was the end of This Runs Through. But
Yeah.
it was cool because it was the first website I ever dabbled in as far as digital design,
Cool.
and used that thing for my portfolio on a CDR to get a job at a design agency in North Carolina. And yeah, I mean, I just kind of worked from there as a wannabe graphic designer and a wannabe fisherman and whatnot. Mind you, I was fishing since I was 5 years old. All
Okay.
this time, like hanging out with my grandparents. My aunt and uncle had a pond in their yard, and it was always like, for gosh, 10 years, all I thought fishing was a bobber and a worm, and that was it. And then, um, all these years like leading up to, uh, like starting on what I thought was going to be a cool design career on my own. Like I thought I was gonna like run the show
Yeah.
as a graphic designer, and it didn't happen as quickly as I wanted it to. And now I look back and I'm like, man, I was not very smart when it came to
Well,
to getting started as a designer.
well,
But
it's cool. Like you guys can go and follow Ant on Instagram. And I think you're running like 3 accounts, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so I think the Ant Sanders creative account is the one that has like all like kind of like examples of work that you've done, and they're all just incredible. So you guys can go and check out some of the work that he's done. And I mean, even now, like I should have worn it tonight. Like I have a shirt that Ant designed from Ketchco. I went to I actually went. There's no academies around here. The closest one is Columbia. But I went to one in North Carolina trying to find one of the Guggen shirts that you designed, and it wasn't there, unfortunately. But
right, nice, yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. Whitney and I drove one day, like one random day back in I don't know, whenever they were released, maybe like late May, early June. Um, we drove to Spartanburg, which is, I don't know, 2 hours from here. Um, we like to go on these like little one-off adventure days where we're like, okay, let's just go. Let's get in the car and go.
Yeah.
And we did. I searched the inventory because I was like, I designed that shirt. Like I designed 2 shirts that are in Academy, and I want one. Like I just want to go in. I want to buy it. I want to buy it full retail as a customer. Like just like get the full thing. Like and I bought it, and brought them, and I got one for each of the kids, and in the
Cool.
smallest size that I could, and gave one to my dad, and he sent me a picture like two weeks later, and he's like, check this out, or my mom. He had my mom take a picture, and he's like, like posing in their kitchen with like the Southern apple wallpaper, and I'm like, that's tough, man.
Hey, if you guys aren't from the South, you don't understand that culinary wallpaper. It's always apples or
Yeah,
cornucopias or
yeah,
chickens.
yeah, like the weather vane, but on wallpaper in the kitchen. Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. It was wild. Like I've had so I worked from like 2008 till 2013. I worked went in as a graphic designer and left as a user experience design manager at Lowe's Home Improvements headquarters. Like, um, and
Oh.
that's my sister. Dang. Um,
Oh no.
Soon I'll give you one. Um, and my time there, I was like, I would like some of my work would be in the Lowe's stores, but like I worked internal at Lowe's. So it was like, a sign on like an end cap would be, my like I could go in on a Saturday and be like, I designed that 2 weeks ago. This is really cool. This feels good. Like
Yeah.
I did that. But you know, growing up and being in like I always had this dream of being like, you know, blending design and fishing or design and outdoors into just one solid, kind of making a living off of one like in one industry doing a variety of things like doing my like wannabe photography and stuff. Like I'm not a photographer, but I love to take my camera everywhere and snap like depth of field stuff and just kind of goof off with it as much as I can and post that stuff just because I mean content's content and
Mm-hmm.
I just that's I like sharing it. So um but when that happened, when I was able to like design stuff for Guggen Squad and then um, see it go live like on their website and then see it live in a store and then be able to like go in and purchase it. Well, now like here we are, not even 6 months later, and pretty much every day I'm working on something that's either going in a mystery tackle box or it's going on the websites. One of them that Ketchco has something to do with, or they're going in, one or two or all of their retail partners. So it's like in a very quick turnaround. It was like this is it. Like
Yeah.
I'm in this industry that I've always dabbled in from a hobby standpoint and from um, I mean, I call walking around in the woods and maybe fishing, maybe not.
Mm.
That's like also my church. Like that's my grounding moment. That's my like life-saving happenings in my life. And now to be able to like have that full-time income or that full-time position in a company within the industry that also like you know put me in a lot better place than I ever had been in my life. Like you know there's a lot of great people in my life too, but like I think a lot of it had to do with fishing.
Yeah.
So
So it's cool because like hearing your story, I would say like you would agree that you would say like you're successful. Like a lot of people see like success as like money or fame or whatever. It's really cool because you had this goal, you had this dream of working in this industry with your passions, and boom, you're doing it. You know?
yeah, yeah, it's weird because I in a way I stopped freelancing um, when I went full time with Catchco, just
Mm-hmm.
because like I wanted for the first time in my life ever. I mean, before Catchco, I was freelancing or working as a contractor, like whether it was full time or like two part-time contract gigs with one design agency here for 20 hours a week and another one here for 25 or 30 or 40, just doing as much as I could to like stay an independent contractor or a freelancer. And for the first time in my life, like I went W-2, like salary, full-time employee with a company that I really 100% like give a crap about.
Right.
And it's like the message, the like sense of community, the community building, the people, like the design aesthetic. Before I even came on board, it was like, I mean, Vince Lasardi, my direct, um, like I report directly to in through Vince, and just the creative team alone, like what they had already done was just like, I mean, you go and I would go into any store prior to even doing one project for Catchco and see the stuff on the shelves and be like, it's like just it's so good because I mean, there's um, there's so much outdoors branding, not just fishing industry, but um, a lot of outdoors branding and packaging and like design work that's just awful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I
But
mean, that's what drew me to it. Like, I got my first pack when I was getting back into fishing. I grabbed a pack of Guggen baits because it was lime green. That's one of my favorite colors.
yeah,
But yeah, you look at their marketing across the board; it's always really good. And obviously, adding you to the team is, can only go up. We were gonna talk about this later, but Southern Studios commented, Catchco seems like a great company to work for. I was gonna ask you, like, what's it been like so far being employed by Catch Company? I mean, you kind
uh,
of answered it, but
yeah. Well, I freelanced full time. Like it was my full time job on top of my other freelance clients for just like right at 5 months, and before I went, full time, like salaried employee. And I thought freelancing was like the end all be all of like I've quote unquote made it. Excuse me. As a designer in the fishing industry, and it's only up from here.
yeah.
Like, and I still 100% feel that way, but um, in like that switch from going full time freelancer to full time, um, I say like W-2 employee, or really the only thing different was my tax filing status. And like, not to get too detailed with specifics, but like um just like flipping that switch and being a part of, like, I was already part of a team and
Mm,
all this, but and I'd always heard the like goofy crap, I mean, for lack of a better word, and in corporate like atmosphere and like jobs and just various places that like, oh, we're a work family. It's like, well, no, like we're not a work family. We're forced to do these 12-hour days, and these are the only people we're around, so we have to kind of consider them family. We got to be nice to each other so we don't wring each other's necks and be and like get through these crazy periods of like time where no one wants to be here. For once in my life, I finally felt like the people that I go to work with every day, I mean, it's all remote now, but like um it is like a a like family aspect, like
yeah.
I can get online and like talk about personal things or like a band, or send a guitar, like I was talking to Ross, the CEO, Ross Gordon,
Mm-hmm.
about we were talking about music, and um it's big, it's huge for me, like uh and then just we have a lot of like time, like it's the only company I've ever worked for freelance and full time, or at all, that puts a really big emphasis on like personal time and mental health, and um, getting a lot of value out of their employees, but putting a lot of value back in, and putting, I mean, it's it's wild, the amount of like things that Catchco does for everyone, like for all of us.
Yeah.
So
And so that's from an employee standpoint, but even trickle down to the influencer standpoint, like they treat us so well.
yeah,
No, nobody, you know, kind of like with the on the line contest, and even up until this point now, like I can email Zoe, who I emailed earlier today. She emails me back. Katie and Eli, like they're also personable and approachable, and I was telling my wife, like, shortly, like sometime during the contest, it was like I feel like they really want me to succeed. Like
yeah,
I'm
oh yeah,
like
yeah,
they believe in me and they're taking a chance on me. Like I believe in them. Like I want to be a part of this team. So Catchco
yeah,
is 100% a great company to be associated with and to work for, and um I couldn't
yeah.
couldn't say that enough.
I agree. I 100% agree. It's I mean, just the connections that I've made because of Catchco, like you. I mean, you know, I mean, pretty much all the people that were um, in like contestants in the on the line contests and everything. Like it didn't. I don't want to say it didn't matter who won, but it
Mhm.
like or that it it didn't matter to the person that did win, but it was
Right.
like the the whole process from start to finish. Like people care,
Yeah.
like people just really like cared to put the content together, cared to kind of like give each other, like pats on the back when, you know, ones would be eliminated, and then they're still like pushing it,
Mhm.
hey, go check out, Ryan or, whoever. Um, I don't know. It's like that a lot internally too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like push to grow and succeed and all that. So
Cool. So, one thing that you had mentioned is that they take a lot of care towards employees' mental health, and that's something that like is huge now. And I've had employers before where, you know, they don't understand when you say, "Hey, I need to take a mental health day. Like,
yeah,
I need to go sit in my kayak and just not even fish, just sit there and sit in the waves." I've had people that don't get that. We had talked earlier off stream. Did you want to still diverge into that a little bit?
yeah, of
Okay.
course, yeah. So yeah, I think like just kind of keeping it in the vibe of like, of fishing and outdoors. I mentioned earlier, like, being outside and like being outdoors, whether I'm like, I mentioned like to you earlier before we went live, like, Saturday I got up, I was at the boat ramp by, sunrise, and before I even stepped foot in like the gravel parking lot and like got in my kayak and all that, I'd already had like my conversation with like that's my time to quote unquote talk to God, and
Mhm.
like, have that sort of like time, like
Mhm.
that me time, but not like, me time to go do something pointless. Like I just, that's just how I kind of like want to, I've always done it. Nothing against like, and nothing, bad about like going to a church and sitting there on like a Sunday or or whatever. But I mean, when I say like fishing, being outside, walking around a pond, taking a hike, hiking along uh, a river, and then veering off and going to the top to see a waterfall, and like taking all that in and the deep breaths and all that was like that's not only like how I got closer to God as like a, a man with family and kids, and what is now like my fiance and our blended family and all that. Like it's also how I got closer to a better like me, as cliche and corny as that sort of stuff can sound. It's like fishing and being outside and like, I mean, I it's almost like an obsessive kind of way of doing it. But like if I, my son, my 6-year-old son, he's like he's obsessed with redfish, and
Okay.
um it's like it's his favorite fish. It's like it was his first like real deal, caught it all by myself. Kind of, that was his deal. And when you hold them and there's any sort of light on the other side of that tail, that like goldish reddish tail is blue. Like it's just
Okay.
straight up, like sky blue. And just kind of seeing like the different angles of things. Like, and I mean, again, it sounds super cliche and corny and like every other word, but like just being out and seeing those miracles and those ways that like this stuff didn't just happen. Like there's some of these things that you know
Yeah.
it just happened. It didn't just happen. Like it's and it took me a long time. It took me a long time in my life to figure out like there's a greater being in control of some of this stuff. And if I don't get my crap straight, I'm whatever. And all that to say, like I'm coming up on 5 years sober from alcohol.
Heck yeah.
And yeah, so there were many times where a phone call to go fishing literally saved my life, or saved my thought process, or
Yeah.
saved me from sitting in my own like at the time like just weird misery almost,
Hmm.
and like I look at things now and I'm like, there's a lot of things that um I can't even like mention how or what they are, they're kind of like wheels turning and gears are moving to do a lot of like giving back type stuff. But I think that's where like Whitney and I, as like two people engaged to like spend the rest of our lives together, that's where our drive and our passion is already. But then to like, again, work for someone who completely wants that for the world and the community in which fishing is built. And um, you know I don't know, like it's if I can talk about it, and this is the first time that I've ever like talked about, like I've like posted on Instagram like a story here and there, like each year that I've stayed sober and whatnot. And I make fun of myself. Like I'll get a 6-pack or a 12-pack of like LaCroix, and come in, I'm like, Whitney, I got a 12er, like just, I mean, but on like a serious note of like talking about it, if I can talk about it and like like sweat a little bit while
You're
I'm,
good.
while I'm talking about it, um and it helps someone, like
Yeah.
um that's all that matters,
Yeah.
and that's where I had a really close friend that he was a major, like he loved beer, like it's just what it was. And we hung out like even through the thick of it, like me getting sober and him getting far from sober,
Yeah.
like and he passed away. But like I really believe that time in my life and sharing fit, like not only life stories but like fishing stories, um with someone who he didn't give a crap about fishing. Like he
Hmm.
was just, oh god, another fishing story. But he was always an open ear. And just being able to like talk about those successes and things like on the water and fishing. And how like there was many times where it's like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't focus on work. I can't sit here and watch my computer all day tomorrow. Like, what am I going to do? And then 5 seconds later, the phone rings and it's, a friend of mine. Hey man, we're boat ramp 5:30 tomorrow. We got room. Let's go. It's like, okay, yeah, okay. Total mind shift,
Yeah.
and like it, I don't know. I look back at a lot of times in my life where I could have, been different or done things differently or, um, Whitney said I'm sweating because of the hoodie.
It is
That's,
still hot here in the South, but
yeah, probably, she's probably right. But no, like I don't know, man. I had to change my ways and again, I keep harping on it, but as cliche and goofy as it sounds, man, fishing and the people that and turning around in my life like brought to me is like wild. I mean,
yeah,
absolutely wild.
yeah. Um, so you text me earlier and you were like, "Hey man, I'm thinking we could talk about this because I always ask whoever I'm having on, like, is there anything that you want to talk about?" And you had brought this up, and I said, "Heck yeah, man!" Like, I think, you know, as a pastor, I've been doing ministry for 10 years now, student ministry specifically. Anytime someone can share their story and impact someone else in a positive way, like I'm all for it. And I think that when we were talking, I was thinking the whole time like you've got to share your story because here's a guy who was in the like you said in the thick of it was able to come out on the other side and be successful. Like there is a message of hope um and victory in the end, right? And I think that's obviously in a gospel presentation, like that's what I hope to convey to people is that there is victory in the end. But here you are, you have this story that whether there's someone listening now or there's someone listening later or 100 years from now, someone randomly stumbles across it, maybe hears your words and your story, and they can relate to you one for one in a way that helps them through a tough time.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah,
that's
for sure. I was, I was kind of not struggling, but I was going back and forth in my head about like, do I just make dumb jokes the whole time and like talk about, all the goofy stuff that I bug my family with and like, I'm the only one laughing at, or, can I help, like, can I use this as a way to, if it helps one person kind of just, you know, I don't know, like my 13-year-old and I and my mom, we were having a discussion last night about stability and purpose and just like feeling worth it, and like it I don't know, man. It really stuck with me through I mean, it was just last night, but like through the day, it was like I think I know what I want to talk
yeah.
about, and it's not a like, hey, I'm coming up on 5 years sober. It's I went through hell to get here.
Hmm.
A lot of my own that I caused, like I mean, 90% of it. And here I am, and I'm where that I really, really wanted to be, that I thought was like so far, beyond reach. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's still a long way to go. Like there's a lot of like, there's a lot of hills to climb. It's not just, you know, at the peak,
Yeah.
by any stretch, but it's I can't complain with, where things are now. So
Well, I'm super thankful for you sharing your story. I'm proud of you. We've been friends for a few months. Obviously, family's proud of you, and anybody in chat would say the same thing. Like we think it's super cool, and it's cool to me like to hear stories of people kind of finding faith not in a church building. Like Southern Studios had said, church is way more than a building, and we say that a lot, but we never really see a lot of cool stories where that's actually true. But I had told Ant earlier in a text message that there are two things for me for TJ that point to a divine creator, and that's childbirth and nature. and like those two things working together, which I guess somebody out there is probably like, well, childbirth is nature, TJ. But the way it all works together, like for me, it's like there's got to be a greater power out there. What would you say to? It's cool that you find your faith strengthened through that and through nature. What would you say if you had a message for someone that might hear this that might be struggling right now? What would you say to them? What's your like encouragement or maybe pro tips or something?
That there's people, I mean, there's people out there that will listen, at any hour of the day, any hour of the night. I mean, I remember, um, just like it was like an Instagram acquaintance that became, you know, one of my best friends, and we're still, we through like a lot of family stuff. Like his family was had gone through some sickness about the same time, and my dad was having some heart issues and stuff. Like we kind of, I don't want to say we lost touch, but you know our friendship began as just a quick message of, hey, you know would you mind if I, bent your ear a little bit about sobriety and whatnot? And yeah, I mean, there's always, I think there's always going to be someone that's going to listen, and that not definitely not be afraid to like reach out
Yeah.
about any kind of thing. Like I kept a lot of like my own struggles in, just held tightly in me for so long because I was embarrassed. It's
Mm,
just like I can't go through a whole work day without like having a drink at lunch, or like stopping for drinks multiple, like over and over and over before I go home at night. Like,
yeah.
and that's where like there was so many times where it could have been just an easier way would have been, to make that phone call or to reach out. But um I don't know. I want I just want everyone to know, like, anyone that, I mean, I'm available for what
Yeah.
it's worth. Like, I mean, I have people, um, I want to be more vocal about like, sobriety and, getting to a point that you want to be at, and it's weird for me because for me, it's not I don't want it to ever come across as like a soapbox. I want it to be more of a, like, a stepping stone for other people, like
Yeah.
not me. I don't, if
Right.
there's a place, like a box to stand on to speak to someone, like I want to stand on the ground and let those people, use that to kind of to all stand on together,
Yeah.
and or whatever kind of cliche, metaphor I could I could think of.
No,
But
that's good. That's good.
it's it's hard to see, like, to see people to see people struggle, and like, um I don't know. I think there's a lot of value in just getting outside and like taking a deep breath,
Mm,
um and just reaching out and saying, hey, can I talk to you? I'm kind of struggling, or if you can't, do you know somebody that could just listen?
yeah.
um,
I would guarantee you that you are not the only one with the issues that you're going through. Like there is someone out there that even if they don't have the exact same situation, they can relate to you in some way. There's this phrase that I've been saying a lot lately that uh, joy shared is doubled, but pain shared is halved. And I think like I mean that's good advice. I mean, Ant said his DMs are open, my DMs are open. You know it's cool. Like I've had people that I've never met before know that I'm a pastor, know that I'm a Christian. They'll shoot into my DMs and like, hey man, could you pray for me? Even non-religious people that they're like, I don't really get this, but I know you do. Could you pray for me? I'm going through something. Like we're definitely open to talk. Digital Well said thanks for sharing, and me too. Like dude, thank you so much for being willing to come on and share that story, because man, it's such a good story of hope, and it's such a cool like a cool thing because I think we all have stories. They're all unique and they all have a purpose. And so I do believe that like your intentions weren't to be like, hey, look at me, I'm 5 years sober. Your intentions were I want to help as many people with my story as I can, and
Yeah.
that's so cool. And I think that you know God is going to give you a platform to change people's lives, whether that's through this podcast or something going forward. So
Yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough. This is I think it's definitely the start of like something bigger and from a platform standpoint of
hmm
just offering that, because I feel the best when I am sharing that kind of that story, and
yeah,
like, I mean, give it, gosh, it just feel, I mean, it feels good. It feels right. It
hmm
feels like, I was kind of supposed to share that story. And I think, just on our little, Whitney and I's little like Tilted Pine YouTube channel, like we goof off, we turn the GoPro on, and that's really the extent of it. But we have so many like bigger and better ideas to, you know, like putting focus on the things that need focus, and sharing those more of those stories. Like I mentioned, my friend that passed away. There's like, God, I could talk for an hour or 10 about just him,
yeah,
and how he exact opposites. I mean, but so like inspirational as a human, and
yeah.
then taken like gone, and but I don't know. It's definitely, I think this was like an aha moment, for
Cool,
me.
cool.
I mean,
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect tonight either. Like, I've got notes that we're obviously not going to get to. Maybe we got to do a part two at some point.
yeah,
But it just paints a bigger picture of influencers, right? Like where our hearts are. It's not like, and I'd said this about success earlier. It's like it's not about making millions. It's not about me being the most popular person on YouTube. It's about making positive differences in people's lives, right? Like that's why I do student ministry. Like I love seeing students connect to the gospel for the first time, and it start to make sense for them, so that hopefully, man, they won't go through some of the pain that I went through, and yeah, you can do the same thing. So, being an influencer and a creator is so much bigger than just like yourself. And I'm sure there's people out there for that are just in it for the fame and the glory, but that's not where our heart is.
right.
And in the fishing industry as a whole, at least none of my friends I get that vibe from. So
No, and I think like the fishing industry, I can go out with, one of my closest friends that I've been all over the place fishing with is not very religious. Like, not, I mean, he thinks that there's like a greater being, but it's like, you know, I'm not living, it's
yeah,
all that aside, like,
yeah,
but when we can come together and like fish and just do our thing. And I mean, I've fished with atheists. I've fished with dudes that are in Christian hardcore bands, punk bands or whatever. And it's like when you can kind of come together and just appreciate, you know, that nature, so to speak. Like, it's, I don't know, man. It's
absolutely,
not. I think there's a bigger sense of community than it's given credit for. So
yeah, absolutely. Um, So what we'll do, since it's already like 9 o'clock, we'll shift into if you got time, we'll shift into a Q&A section for a few minutes. So if you guys
yeah,
if you guys do have any questions for Ant or myself or collectively, I wanted to go back up and answer a question from Aiden who asked to explain on the line, which is on the line was a contest that I was in this summer with Ketchco that led to the sponsorship, and so it was 10 people competing to find the next big fishing influencer. And if you YouTube Fisher Yin, he actually won. He's got some really sick logos coming, by the way. We've seen some previews of those logos that you've done. They look really good.
thank you.
Um, so I can't like there wasn't really a ninth or 10th place, but I was eliminated round one. But it's all good. It's all good. It was such a fun experience. So uh,
Yeah, I I had a lot of fun, like from an internal workings standpoint, like kind of just seeing some of the things like as they were happening before, that's it was hard. I mean, it was hard to like know things before anyone else,
Hmm.
and it was like, oh man, but then again, like community, it
Yeah.
all kind of just comes back in and like lifts everybody up. Like
Yeah.
you mentioned, you're gonna be eliminated first round, but now it doesn't. You guys are all like supporting each other, like
Yeah.
commenting on social posts and like sharing your stories on here, like so. Yeah, I mean, it was a good contest, but I think I think if anything, it built friendships out of everyone.
Absolutely. I mean, I talked to most of the people. There's a few that I haven't heard from since, but I know they're all doing their own thing. Like there was no ill feelings, but it was such a good contest. Like I always say, the best things that came out of it were the relationships that were formed. Obviously, me and you are now friends because of that contest. So
Yeah, yeah,
um, cool. I don't see any questions in the chat other than you had mentioned that you have the Sony A7 III. Um,
yeah. I do. And it was really because I couldn't afford like the next thing up. So um,
okay, here's a good question. Uh, Digital Well says Art or Ant. Sorry, I would like to hear maybe two or three people that you follow that inspire you. Maybe some of those people who aren't on many people's radars. I have shared Trevor Soity as an
so
example.
gotcha. One dude is Gian Lawrence. He actually just got a big push from Patagonia Fly Fish for all of his work to get African American folks fly fishing in the Pacific
Cool.
Northwest. And his Instagram is the Blackstone Fly. Um, Super solid dude, man. He's and he I'm not sure what his like full on like day job is, but he also runs another account called Smokers Chop House or Smoker. No, I'll have to clarify.
Okay.
Um, oh my gosh, I'm like drawing a blank on it, but he smokes all kinds of meat, ribs, does like kind of little like pop up shop sort of deal out in the Seattle area. Um, Super cool dude. Um, and then oh man, God, this put me on the spot. um, Man, there's so many. Gosh, I'm really drawing a blank. He was the first. I mean, he's the first one that just like really, here lately has really, um, stood out. I think from a fishing and like growth and just keeping going, like momentum, never losing it. Another account catching footballs. A friend of mine named Cody.
Okay.
He's a smallmouth fisherman out west, and I'd say those two dudes alone, like, and it's just a coincidence that they're both in that area, but
Okay.
yeah,
Did they just release new merch? Because I've been seeing T-shirts with catching footballs on it a lot lately.
yeah.
Did you
So
just
he had a design made of a smallmouth with like the
mm-hmm. Laces?
laces.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of it.
Sorry, is that a pet peeve of yours? Some people hate being like,
No, I love
okay,
it. I was trying to think of something earlier, and I was like sitting there going, oh God, but yeah, you saved me.
gotcha.
Um, yeah, that's that's a good one, man. He's the drive in that dude, just from a like being out, also catching fish, also documenting it, also posting it on a regular basis. Like, there's a lot that goes into that stuff, and I I just think that there should be um, a pat on the back when it's due.
Yeah. Aiden said my cousin caught an Abu Garcia bait caster. That's cool. He like caught it like in the water. What do you mean? Um, who are some of like your favorite YouTube channels that you watch?
Oh man. I gotta say, like and I mean, for not that I'm biased, but the Uncharted series that Ketchko does, like
So
before
good.
my Ketchko days, like just just great stuff, man. It's only getting better.
Mm-hmm.
I just really dig it. And I mean, I've been caught up. I mean, it's kind of corny, but like you know, I've been caught up with John B's latest video as he's released it for I don't know how many years. Like
Okay.
just because it's a my friend Alex was his camera guy for a long time, for a couple years. So I was just like I was always watching the edits, and
Yeah.
like just really dialed into like how Alex was doing his editing and that sort of stuff. And as it grew, I would just be like, you kind of like get to know these people through through their YouTube. Um, I don't know. It was just one of those things that, like, I mean, he's obviously one of the biggest YouTube fishermen out there,
Yeah.
but I don't know, it just works. And then uh, I dig Ryan Rigged a lot.
Yeah.
He's always doing something
He's
cool.
got
He's
such good energy about him all the time,
all the time.
man.
Yeah,
Across all of his socials, Ryan's the same in every post. Like,
yeah. And I get there's a lot of times where I'm like finally settling in for the night, and I'm like scrolling through, and I'm like, God, how did he do this all day? And I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. It's man, there's so many though, man.
yeah,
It's like I wish there was a way to kind of share um well, anyway, yeah, just like
yeah,
kind of have like a little regroup once a week on like the best YouTube from this person's perspective, like
yeah.
not from a like you know I don't know. I think there's so much out there. I like Alex Rudd
I
a lot,
love Alex Rudd.
and I think there's a lot of dudes out there that just don't, and females that just
Yeah,
do not get the credit that they deserve, from for whatever reason,
yeah.
And I think that's probably a whole nother topic, but
I'm gonna ask Alex Rudd to come in here one night. He seems like the guy that might just actually do it. You know?
yeah, he's I dig it, man. I mean, just his southern drawl, and
Yeah.
like just I don't know, it's cool.
So
Southern,
two quick questions. One before Southern Studios, Clearwater asked, "This, what kind of coffee do you drink, and how do you drink it?"
I drink um Stoke,
Mm-hmm.
STOK, cold brew, like the unsweet black, all black. Pour it in a cup, in this cup, every single day, and drink it. I drink pretty much an entire container of it every single day. Um,
Dang.
and then I switched to water a couple times a day, like this full, I don't know, 7 or 8 times, and then uh, CBD sparkling water to
Nice.
just ease into my afternoon and evening. And the reason why I was holding this up so much is not because of Yeti, but because of the
Oh,
fly.
sick.
That this was a Father's Day present. Father's Day before last.
That's a cool
So
gift.
yeah,
Um,
like
i-
a cool Etsy find.
if you care about me, I usually just drink really sugary coffee, but I'm on a diet right now, so we can only drink black coffee. So I just don't. Um, so then Southern Studios had a good question, and we'll let this be the last one since we're already 10 minutes over. Best advice for getting a full-time job with a company like Ketchko?
Man, I will say, we're just, I mean, for lack of better phrase, like work your butt off. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because they don't they don't just hire anyone. And like I can honestly say that I went through the same process even after freelancing for 5 months. I went through the same process as anyone else who got a resume pulled down from the system and read through and given to someone as a maybe.
Okay.
So I mean, I can strongly, I can 100% say that,
I'm sorry. Hold on. Jeffrey said, "Pete the dog absolutely KO'd in the back." My corgi is just absolutely.
oh man, that's funny.
I'm sorry.
I don't see it on the Zoom. I
Oh
see
yeah.
it on YouTube though.
So it's because I've got two webcams, one for Zoom, one for YouTube, or one for my streaming software. Yeah, she looks like a little cow just rolled.
That's amazing.
uh,
That's awesome. But yeah, man, just always, I mean, keep pushing. Don't be annoying.
yeah.
Like I feel like I would at one point I was probably annoying on like LinkedIn or something. Like, man, just give me like one project. Come on, please. Like, please, just like one project. I promise it'll be good.
Give me some crumbs, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Please let me wash your windows. Like, like please. No, but I don't know, man. It's a tough place to like um to kind of get into, from like, I mean, it's growing rapidly. Catchco is growing so rapidly, but at the end of the day, like we're still less than 100 employees, and it, it's not. I don't know. I think you just, you just work. I mean, work hard, and you can do anything, even get a job at Catchco.
Your sister said persistence pays off.
Yep.
Love it.
Yeah.
Southern
100.
Studios. Southern Studios actually is my best friend Jeremy. I almost said Jay, but y'all wouldn't know him as that. I just call him that shorthand. But actually filmed the video that I'm going to be putting out Wednesday. So if you guys want to see some cool video shots that he did all the video and the editing actually, which was a big step for me. And like he was like, "Why are you being weird about it?" I've never let anyone else edit a video before, so
Right.
I was nervous. But
There you go. Yeah, we're gonna we say it, Whitney and I say it probably 3 or 4 times a week. Like, we gotta film some more. And like my
yeah,
entire camera box is like sitting right here, ready to go. Like everything's all fully charged and it's sat here since our last trip. But I think this is, I'm hereby going on record on YouTube saying like
let's go.
we gotta get we're gonna get some more content coming you guys' way. So subscribe.
Absolutely. That's a good segue to a closing. My wife and I watched your videos one night when you put out like 2 or 3 like in a like day after day. Like we watched them each night, and just you guys playing off of each other was so like the chemistry, I guess, was just so natural. It was really fun for us to watch too. So and hopefully encouraging her to maybe get on camera with me a little bit more too. So
There you go. Do it. It's fun. It's absolutely awesome. It is so fun because I mean, once we get it set up and we press the record button, it's all easy from there. It's
yeah.
just a matter of like, oh God, I gotta like open the box and but yeah, we're gonna do it.
Let me hang up with YouTube real quick, and then I'll hang up with you. If that's cool.
Yeah, of course.
So thank you guys so much for listening tonight. It was so much fun. Make sure you're clicking the links in the description, following Ant across all platforms, putting out incredible content. Just a great resource too if you guys ever have any questions. Everything that we talked about tonight, we talked about for a reason. If you guys want to know more, you can DM him. He's an open book as well. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys live next Monday night, and I'll drop a video on my YouTube channel as always on Wednesdays. Hope you guys have a good night. Thank you so much for sticking around, chat. You guys are the best. I'm gonna hit you guys with an ending screen just for consistency's sake. Love you. See you next time.